So, I welcome everyone to the webinar on Unleashing Opportunities, Higher Studies and Careers for Indian Veterinarians in the USA. First of all, I would like to welcome the speaker of today's program, Dr. Ravikiran sir. I would also like to welcome all the participants. Internationally operational, non-partisan, non-profit student body and the largest democratic organization of veterinary students in India, representing our country at global level. Our organization and dedication of veterinary students to promote the international application of veterinary skills, education, and knowledge to enhance the standard of the academic experience of veterinary students in the country and ultimately improve animal welfare. It was started in the year 2020. Ivsa Shivamogga was started in the year 2022. I now request Krishnapriya Srikumar, Junior Exchange Officer, Ivsa Shivamogga, to introduce the speaker.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Yeah, let me share my presentation. Can you guys see my screen? Uh, can someone speak up because I'm not able to see the Google screen when I'm sharing my screen.
Is
Yes, sir,
yours?
it's visible.
All right, thank you. Yeah, thank you everyone for having me, and it's my pleasure to speak to uh, my alums, my juniors back in KVFSU, and all the other students who might have joined from India. And yeah, so I will today I'll briefly talk about the opportunities, higher studies and career opportunities for Indian veterinary students in the US. And I'll mainly, talking about my experience and give a broad overview of the opportunities available, and I'll give some specific examples, and I will try to keep it as informal as possible. If someone has to ask a question in between a presentation, then just unmute yourself and ask the question, and I'll try to finish the presentation in say 40 minutes, 15 minutes, so we'll have like good at least 10 to 15 minutes for any questions that you might have. So I'll be happy to answer your questions after this. Uh, So briefly, yeah. So in 2016, I finished my BVSC from KVFSU Hebbal, Bangalore. So after that, I joined Gaduwasu and I did my master's in public health and epidemiology. And I graduated in the year 2018. So after that, I worked in Nivedi. That's a National Institute of Veterinary Epidemiology and Disease Informatics. That's in Bangalore. I worked there not for long, for like for like 4 to 5 months, and after that I got accepted to Washington State University, and I started my PhD program at Washington State University uh, in the year 2019. And at the same time, I worked with a national institute here in United States. It's called Pacific Northwest National Lab. So it mainly deals with national security, including biosecurity. So if you are thinking of uh, say any zoonotic diseases, it's considered as a national security threat in terms of biosecurity. So I was working with them, like I was doing my PhD, but I was also working with the national lab in collaboration with them. And I was building disease prediction models, just like say COVID prediction model, like what would happen and this location in the next 2 3 months. What would be the number of cases, what would be the number of resources that we might require for say controlling the diseases, something like that. So I was mainly involved in zoonotic diseases. And then I finished my PhD in 2023, and I started my new job at Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in 2023. So if you guys don't know what Centers of Disease Control and Prevention is, so it's a federal institute. It's a central institute organization which comes under United States government. So I'm a government employee here right now, and CDC deals with a lot of domestic issues, um, and also a lot of international issues. So it spans from say metabolic diseases like diabetes, or obesity, or contagious disease like HIV, or like vector-borne diseases like dengue, chikungunya, or it could be zoonotic disease like rabies or monkeypox, right? So I work in rabies division. So I work as an epidemiologist and disease modeler. So my work here is mainly to build disease models to understand the presence of the disease better, and we guide both domestic partners, example state partners, and international partners like WHO or OIE, or now called as World Organization for Animal Health, or World Bank, or like country specific um, help. We provide that also if say a country requires our help in controlling rabies or implementing preventive measures, so they will approach us and we will provide them technical support. So that's the brief timeline, and what I did and what I'm doing now. So without further ado, let me begin. So in brief, so if you are talking about opportunities in the US, so you have mainly two options. One is your uh, clinical track and your research track, right? So in clinical track, you have say academia. For example, if you want to work for a university, right? You want to work as a professor, or if you want to work as as a faculty in a university. That's that's mainly it. And the second option is government agencies. For example, what I am doing, I'm working for CDC, right? I have also worked for other government agency like called Pacific Northwest National Lab. So that's one more government agency. So that's the second category, and the third category is industry. That is your private. Say if there is a vaccine, if it's a vaccine company or a biotechnology company or a pharma company, for example, like Pfizer or Moderna or or Amgen or something like that. So industry is another option that you can take. So these mainly comes under the research track, and then you have your clinical track. For example, you want to do private practice here. You want to practice as a veterinarian, right? And or you want to specialize, right? So uh, once you have your once you are eligible to practice, you can specialize in one particular field, like for example cardiology or neurology or internal medicine or surgery or something like that. So that's your further specialization. It's called residency. It's equivalent to your master's, what you do, like masters in clinical science, for example, masters in surgery or master in medicine, that you do. So it's equivalent to that. It's called residency program, but here it's mainly clinical practice focused. So you don't have a lot of research component. So you mainly do a 3-year long specialization in a university or in a hospital, right? Or you can do a clinical research. For example, there is a demand for clinical researchers, for clinicians in industry. For example, if a company is doing some kind of research related to small animals or canines or primates, maybe they would want a veterinarian, and that's one of the option. So so I I wanted to get a response of like how many people are say interested in say, so we have like 60 people here, right? So how many people are interested in clinical track, and how many people are interested in say research track? If I can just like send an emoji or something, or send a chat, just type in the chat and say what are you interested in, so that we can get like a rough estimates of where we are, like what the uh, how the what the crowd is interested in. And once you have all your the chats in, I cannot see the screen because I don't have like a dual screen now, but once that's there, someone can tell me the rough ratio of people interested in clinical track and research track. Yeah,
Researchers.
yeah, we have a good number, I would say. Clinical research, yeah, we have good mix, right? So yeah, let me go back. So my experience is mainly in research, but I'll give you like a brief overview of both the tracks, uh, how to approach it, and but I may or may not be answer your specific questions on clinical track, but I'll try to answer. But my experience is in research. So yeah. So let's talk about clinical track. So if you want to practice in the US, so your college needs to be accredited by American Veterinary Medical Association. If your college is not accredited, then you need to, no, you will not be eligible for the licensing per se. So the licensing is called NAVLE. That is not North American Veterinary Licensing, exam. So you will not be eligible for NAVLE. So you'll not be eligible to practice in the US as it is. So there are two tracks. So our, like most of the universities in India are non AVMA accredited. So you have to go through pre-eligibility process to be eligible to give NAVLE. So so there are two pathways that you can do. One is called PAVE program, and second one is called ECFVG. So there are some universities where you can practice. You can say universities where you can start practicing without the NAVLE licensing, but it's very limited. But it also, it kind of like narrows your ability to practice somewhere else. So for example, if you want to practice in private, you need an NAVLE certification. So the first pathway is called EFVG. So it has two components. So one is called BCSE, that is your basic clinical science examination. It's an online examination. It's which based on multiple choice questions, and you can prepare for this exam, say in India, and you can give this exam now back in India. And the second component is called CPE, that is clinical proficiency exam. So it's a 3-day exam with 7 sections. It's more practical oriented. So here you are tested on your hands-on clinical skills. And so once that's done, the third step is NAVLE. So once you're done with your BCSE and your CPE, so you are eligible for NAVLE. So that's your third step. And once you have cleared your NAVLE, you have the license to practice in the US. That's the 3-step examination process. So for the first step, so once you have done with your first step, that is BC, SE, there's a chance where you can start practicing under the supervision of a licensed veterinary practitioner here. So various like schools, clinics now allow you to do an internship to get the clinical like experience for you to sit on the clinical proficiency exam. So what students usually do is they give their exam, they give their first step, that is BCSE, and they will do an internship or something in veterinary school here. They will get the clinical experience, and then they will give their CP exam, and then they will clear the NAVLE. So the second step is, so here in this step, what happens is there's a chance that you can get your proficiency exam, right? And because it's a competitive exam, it's a challenging exam, so there's always a chance of you failing the exam, and you have to like reappear for the exam for the next year. So if you don't want that uncertainty, there is one more option called as PAVE program. So PAVE stands for Program for Assessment of Veterinary Education Equivalency. So it is similar to the first process, that is ECF VG. But so the first step in here is almost similar to ECF VG. That is, you have your qualification exam, that is your written exam. But in the second step, so instead of giving your clinical proficiency exam, so what you do is you do 1 year of your internship in a veterinary university. So think of it as just like the internships that we have in our BVSC program. So you will be doing clinical rotations with the fourth year veterinary students here in the US Institute. So that is equivalent to your. So if you do that rotations, you don't have to give your clinical proficiency exam. So you can directly give your NAVLE. So you still have to go through two exams, that is your qualifying exams and NAVLE, but you don't have to do the clinical part here. And there are some universities that offer this program. For example, University of Missouri, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Oregon, Pennsylvania. You can check their websites for more information. But one downside about this program is compared to compared to this, that is ECF VG, pay program is considerably expensive, because you are doing almost 1 year of you are registering as a student, and you are doing 1 year of your internship in that college. So for your first option, so say one exam will cost you say $6,000. So it's around like, I don't know, like 5 lakhs. Pay program is much more expensive. You're talking about around 30 to 40 lakhs, because you are paying uh, the fee to register for the as a student in a US accredited veterinary schools. So it's a bit expensive, but if you can afford it, it's more certain that you will get your licensing by the end of 1 year, compared to the first option that I told you. So basically, you have your PAVE. In PAVE, you have qualifying exam, that is MCQ, and you have practical component, that is your where it's a 3-day exam, and then you will be eligible for your NAVLE. And the second one is ECF VG. Even here you have your qualifying exams, but here sorry, I got confused between PAVE and EFMG. So in ECF VG, you have the qualifying clinical proficiency exam, but in PAVE you have internship, 1 year internship, and then you will be eligible for NAVLE. So one thing you can you can do is, say, once you are done with your qualifying exam, you can directly prepare for your NAVLE. So you don't have to wait for you. So this, because there's a time gap between your qualifying exam and your practical component. So when you are waiting for your practical component, you can appear for NAVLE exam, and you can finish off your NAVLE exam, and then you can come to the US, and you can finish your practical components, whichever fits best for you. So the thing that you can do. You don't have to wait for uh, your practical component to get over to finish your NAVLE. So yeah, what's after licensing? So after licensing, you can do clinic like rotations, like specialty rotations. For example, if you want to like specialize in, say, cardiology. You can do a specialty rotation in cardiology. If you want to specialize in emergency medicine, you can do emergency medicine rotations. And then once you, if you want to further specialize, you can do a residency, as I was talking about the residency programs, which are really competitive, but they will pay you really well. And these are 3-year long programs, just like our masters, but it is purely, you have purely clinical component. You don't have research component in here. So you specialize in various, say, subjects like neurology, internal medicine, cardiology, radiology, things like that. And yeah, so once you are done, you can join academia as a professor. You can do clinical rounds, you can do like consultation, you can do private practice, or can do clinical roles in the industry or something like that. So this is the broader overview of clinical track in the US. Next is research track, that which I did. So research track, so you want to do your research, your first stepping stone into the research track in the US is doing your master's or your PhD, right? So master's is usually 2 to 2.5 years long, and PhD is 4 to 5 years long. And one thing to keep in mind is, and which is actually really important, is that here in the US universities, the departments are not branched like we have your department of, say, medicine, department of surgery, department of gynecology, department of pharmacology. So it's not divided in that way. It usually you have a bigger department called as, say, like department of comparative biomedical science, where they do bunch of things like microbiology, immunology, pathology. Or it could be a broader department like department of pathobiology, department of epidemiology. So there are broader departments, and within the departments, all the works are very collaborative. So say, for example, once you are done with your masters, you are generally not given a degree like a master's in microbiology. So you will be given a master's in pathobiology or comparative biomedical science. And again, it varies from one department to another department. So one university to another university. For example, say in one university might have a department of epidemiology where you can get a PhD in epidemiology, but you might do exactly same work in another university, but it might be named as PhD in veterinary science. For example, even though my PhD was in epidemiology and data science, it is called veterinary science. It's called PhD in veterinary science. It's not called PhD in epidemiology because we never have had an epidemiology department. So so the departments are very collaborative and interdisciplinary. So you might be a microbiologist, but you will be working with other disciplines like epidemiologist, public health, a public health expert, or it could be a pathologist, or it could be a neurobiologist. So it's very, very interdisciplinary and very collaborative. And it's not like ours, where if you are in the microbiology department, you'll be working with mainly the research that is happening in microbiology department. It's not like that. It's very collaborative and interdisciplinary. And you are not just like limited to a veterinary university with a veterinary college, right? You can go and apply for any colleges in your discipline. For example, say you are a immunologist, and you want and when you are looking for immunology department, you don't have to just look for a veterinary college. university with a veterinary college. For example, say if you want to do immunology program in Harvard, for example, it's Harvard doesn't have a veterinary college, but it has it, it will have a immunology department, so you can go and apply for an immunology department there. So it's never restricted to the title that you get. For example, say if you are a master's, you have a master's in veterinary immunology, you don't have to stick to, say, a PhD in immunology. You can go and explore other fields as well. It's very skill dependent. That's something you have to keep in mind. If you have the skill and if you can prove it, you can jump from one field to another field easily. And also another thing that you have to keep in mind is that PhD programs are more common than master's programs. Say I'm assuming that most of you are masters are BSc students. So what I'm assuming that you might be interested in master's program. But one thing to keep in mind is master's programs are not common. So here in the US, if you want to join a PhD program, you don't need to have a master's program. You can directly do a bachelor's, and from bachelor's you can directly join a PhD program. You don't need a master's degree. But what you need is experience and especially research experience to prove that you can do a master's program. So usually departments prefer PhD students, but some departments will also have master's program. Say, so you have to do your own research in that, right? So you have to make sure that if the department make sure that the department has a master's program and what you want to do with it. And you also yeah, and I'll talk about that in my further slides. So, and after your PhD program, so what to do, right? So usually after your PhD programs, you do something called postdoctoral research. So it's like a stepping stone for your higher position. So for example, if you want to be a, say, assistant professor in a university, then you're not usually like directly given a role as an assistant professor. You are expected to do a postdoctoral research where you build your research skills, build your collaborative skills, build your funding sources, and once that is done, you can like gradually transition into a full-time position. So usually what postdoctoral research help us do is it kind of like facilitates smoother transition into higher positions, and it also like increases your research experience, develop your skill. Say for example, you had one skill in your PhD program and you want to broaden your skill, so you can do a postdoc to get that skill. And it also helps in networking and collaboration, which is really important here, because you need to have networks and collaborations to 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 do your research and also to find funding. So postdoctoral research will help you with that, and also it will help you with your publication, because publication is important. So usually the career pathways for research includes, say, academia. It could be like a tenure track that is permanent, like faculty position, or it could be a research faculty position where you just do research, not a lot of teaching. Or it could be a teaching position where you do a lot of teaching but no research. Or it could be like somewhere like a hybrid, which is most of the positions where you do a bit of research, bit of um, um, academia. Or it could be an industrial position, say in R&D department in an industry, or a product manager in a meat processing unit. Or it could be like a consultation role, or it could be government or private sector, for example what I am doing, right? Something like that. It could be also a global health organization like WHO or OIE or World Bank. Or it could be an alternate pathway. If you want to be a science communicator, you can do that. You want to be a journalist where you write about science, about your field, you can do it. Or if you want to be a data scientist, for example, for example, if you think that you have built enough, say you are a epidemiologist, for example, you have done enough work in you have done enough work in, say, analyzing data, and you could be qualified as a data scientist and work in Google, for example, even though your background is epidemiologist. So what I'm trying to say is the options are limitless. You can jump from one field to another field easily as long as you have the experience. For example, now, say, so I'm working as an epidemiologist. So, say, if I want to work for Google or Netflix or Amazon as a data scientist, maybe I have to like spend like a year or something to build my skills. And if I have that skills, I can apply for that role, even though I'm a veterinarian, right? So your degree is not a limitation. It's nobody cares about your degree once if you have a skill. Um, Briefly, I will talk about how to prepare. So if you want to like apply for a master's or PhD program, so I'll briefly talk about the application process and what the universities look for when they are looking at your applications. This is a topic by itself, so you can talk 3 hours about this subject, but I'll try to keep it brief, and I will talk about something that worked for me, and something I could share with you all. So if you are applying for a PhD or master's program, so basically there are these criteria: so your educational background, your CGPA, your letter of recommendation, statement of purpose, your standardized tests like GRE and English proficiency. If assuming that you graduate with a veterinary science and a degree, you are way well qualified for any of the PhD or master's program when it comes to educational background, because having a veterinary degree is your strength here, and universities will give a lot of weightage for a candidate with a veterinary degree. And also, and next is your CGPI. CGPI is like your minimum qualification. So some universities might go like look for higher CGPI than others, but usually the cutoff is like around 3.2 or something, a scale of 4. That is equivalent to like 7, maybe even sometimes less, like 7.2. So that could be your cutoff, but usually the number, your CGPA is very flexible, um, and it has like a very minimum cutoff. So if you're an average student in India, you'll do well in terms of CGPI. But what's more important is your letter of recommendation and statement of purpose. For this, you have to pay extra attention, because that's what the selection committee will look for. And I'll talk more about how to write, how to what to concentrate on when you're writing a statement of purpose, and when you are getting a letter of recommendations. Next year is your standardized test, GRE. GRE was important 5 years ago. Now it is becoming less and less important. So when I was applying, I spent so much of time preparing for GRE, and it's a fairly difficult exam, especially if you are a veterinarian. If you don't have a quantitative background, it's challenging, but it's doable. But most of the institutes now are removing GRE from their as their criteria, and they're focusing more on say letter of recommendation and statement of purpose. and your overall research skills rather than your standardized test. So do your own research in this. Go to the university website and see what the requirement is. Sometimes a program, a university might not ask for GRE. Sometimes it is optional. Sometimes it doesn't ask for GRE. So do your own research on this. Next is your English proficiency, that is IELTS and TOEFL. This is mandatory, and I think you all can do it. It's not that difficult to crack TOEFL or IELTS. So most important thing that you have to focus on, if you're a bachelor's, if you're a bachelor student, or if you're a master student, and if you want to apply for higher education in the US, one thing that you have to really focus on is your research profile, because think of it like a job, right? You are literally applying for a job here. Yes, you are applying for a master's or PhD program, but think of it as a job, and the job requires you to do research. If you don't have research experience, it's kind of tricky, right? Because you are supposed to do research as in your master's and PhD program. But if you don't have research experience, then that could be a limiting factor. For master's program, yes, you are trained to do research, but if you are applying for a PhD program, you need to have the research experience, good research experience, and this could be a deal breaker between getting into a good research institute and research university and getting into a mediocre or okay research university. So stronger your research experience, better will be your chances into getting into good universities. So how can you build so if you're a bachelor student, especially in our BVC programs, you don't emphasize on research programs experience. I can understand that. When I started, I did not have any experience when I graduated. So I can understand that. What you can really do is really talk to your professors, see if they have professors in your university, see if they have any research projects going on in their lab. Try to volunteer, try to work on the projects. It could be like small things, or if you know a master's or PhD student, any of your seniors that probably they'll have a research project, volunteer to help them in their research project, so that you will get to know what kind of work they are doing. So you'll get to know what you might be interested in, and also you will get to know the professors, right? So it's both your networking, collaboration, and you are gaining a research experience at the same time by doing this. And also there are national labs and research institutes that always look for help. If you're if you are, say, on a Saturdays or Sundays, if you can find a lab somewhere, in a national lab, in a lab in a research institute who might require your help, go and help them out. See what they're doing, and talk to the if you can talk to the scientists over there. Talk to them. Volunteer to help, and most of the time they'll be more than happy to accept you. And also show like genuine interest. Try to, if you're a master student, then publish couple of articles. It will really help you. If you're a bachelor student, your options are limited, but also you can still get a review article, for example, or a conference abstract, or something like that. You can there is a chance to get that. And also, if you are looking at the long term, doing a master's in India really help. For example, it really helped for me to do my master's in Gadwasu before doing my PhD, because I not only built the research experience, but I also had a better knowledge of what I want to do here. So I was more focused in my PhD, and I did not have to figure out what to do, what not to do, because I had that research experience already. So my PhD work was more focused, and I could get more work done, more publication done. And I also had that confidence, because I had a very good master's program. I had really good publications during my master's. Yeah, some general things that you have to consider is start early. If you want to apply for any university, start early. Look when the deadlines are. I have done this mistake. Say if the deadline, if the semester starts in August, don't start in, say, January, because 6 months is not enough. If say if yeah if the university, if the semester begins in August, then you have to start preparing at least 1 year in advance, because you have to build and you have to write your um, you have to write your statement of purpose, recommendations. You have to build your profile. You have to prepare your resume. You have to submit. Most of the submission deadlines are in December, for the August entry. So it's almost 1 year process. And also you have to contact uh, professors and get to know their lab. So try to start well in advance. Prepare yourself well. Research about the universities and the PhD program, and identify a faculty member that you want to work with, and also try to understand the admission requirements. Connect with potential advisors. This is really important. That's why I told you to start early. Say if you have identified a university and you have identified a lab, try to reach out to them. Like send an email saying that you are interested, what work they are doing, what work you want to do in the future, how your interest matches with their clinical, with their research experience, and write a genuine, like a small email, small concise email showing your interest. And do this most of the time. Maybe professor will reply to you, maybe they will not, because they are really busy. Professors are busy, so be patient with them. If they don't respond, wait for a week or so, send a follow-up email, and yeah, and try to build, try to contact them. Because if they say, if you have identified a lab before you apply, then your possibility of acceptance will increase hundredfolds. So it's better to contact your potential advisor before you apply. Yeah, establish the connections, and strengthen your applications, and talk about your funding opportunities. um, so usually in the US there are two types of assistantships. So assistantship, consider assistantship as your funding, as your salary, and your tuition fees. So your tuition fees and salary should come from some source. It could be a research assistantship, where, say, a professor pays your tuition and your stipend, uh, because for and in exchange you get to, you have to work in their lab, right? So that is research assistantship. The other one is teaching assistantship, where you teach a course for, say, undergraduates, like a bachelor's level course. um, uh, so that's teaching assistantship. So these are the main funding opportunities. Talk about them. um, and reach out to the students. If there are any students in the lab that you are interested in, reach out to them. Talk about the research opportunities, and see how the advisors hard. So one potential deal breaker after you come here is your advisor or your mentor. So if you have a good mentor, you will have a great PhD time. If you have a, if you don't have a good mentor, then you will have a terrible time. So make sure that you are getting into a good lab well in advance. It Yeah, and yeah, tailor your application material. Like tell a story, right? So you should tell a convincing story when you are writing your application. Like tell about what you did, right? Tell about your experiences. Tell what you did in past 5 years, 7 years, and why you are interested in particular research you want to do, and how your research aligns with the interest of the university and the interest of the lab, and what you want to do, like broadly. Now you don't have to go into very specifics, like broadly. Now where you see yourself in 5 years, right? So you have to tell a story. You have to convince them that you are a good applicant. Yeah, work on your resume, CV, recommendation letters, right? Letters are really important. Like contact the professors, that that and this is where working in labs helps. Say if you are, if you have volunteered to work in a lab, in a department in your college, probably the professors knows you, so they can write a very good recommendation letter. So recommendation letter should be very specific towards you. If you don't know a professor and if you ask him to write a recommendation letter, probably he or she will write a very generic letters which is not specific to you, right? So you want your recommendation letters to be directed towards you, describing why you are a good student, right? And yeah, be interesting, be genuine, and don't lie in your application, because they will know if you are doing that. Yeah, so my final exam, final like advice for you all is take it slow, and take a break, right? If things will not happen according to what you plan, for example, for myself, like I wanted to do my PhD immediately after my master's. So in fact, I want to do my master's during, uh, in the US. I prepared for my GRE, TOEFL, I had cleared all my exams during my fourth year of my, during my, BBSc, but I did not get into any of the university. One thing, because I was not aware of the admission process, and secondly, I did not have any research experience at that time. So I did my masters in Gadwasu, which was one of the best decisions that I made, because as I told you, it really boosted my confidence. It really, I published really good publications, and my profile like developed a lot in during my master's program. And I don't think I would have had a good PhD you know experience if I had not done my master's in Gadwasu. And even after my master's, I did not go into the PhD program immediately. I took a year break and worked in Nivedi, and I started my master's only like after like 1 year. Sorry, I started my PhD 1 year after my master's, and that taking that break really helped me at that time, because it helped me to like refocus, like develop my skills, my data analysis skills. So one more thing is that I did not have any statistics, data analysis, machine learning skills, or like I hated math and statistics before my masters, before my masters. So even during my masters, most of my work was like field based sample collection, where I did prevalence studies on Coxiella, Q fever, and brucellosis. So most of my time was spent out in the field, in the villages, collecting blood samples, milk samples from cattle and buffalo, and bringing them and analyzing them using immunological, serological techniques like ELISA, PCR, molecular techniques like PCR. So my master's was mostly field data collection and lab sampling. It was had like small component of statistics, like statistical analysis, because you have a data and you have to analyze your data, right? You have to use some kind of statistical technique. So, and I really like, I mean, I really liked that part of my, that part of my research, the analysis, even though I hated math and statistics at that time. So next 1 year, I kind of, worked on my skills, and I took online courses. I did not have any like formal, I did not take any formal course on statistics or data analysis or anything like that. So I worked on my skills, and it really helped in my PhD. In PhD is where I learned my where I got like a solid statistical data science, machine learning background, and that's what I'm doing now. So if I had not taken that break and if I had not done my masters, I don't think I would have been in CDC, working with like no, CDC, which is like one of the biggest public health organizations in the world, right? So yeah, take it slow, and it's a long process. It will take a lot of time for you to build those skills, but be patient, keep your options open. For example, for me, if not masters in the United States, it was masters in a good university in India, and Gadwasu was has a really good public health and epidemiology department. And so keep your options open, and it's okay to change your career path, right? So my master's was in public health epidemiology. My PhD was in mostly data science, machine learning. Now I'm an analyst and modeler, even though I'm an epidemiologist, but I don't do traditional epidemiology stuff anymore. So it's fine to change your career tracks, as you go forward. And yeah, so these are all my research, right? So even though I'm in the United States, my PhD work was on Kashmir forest disease, which is, I'm from Chikmagalur. So I'm from Western Ghats, right? So this was a project which was close to me because I was working about the disease that was close to my place, Kashmir forest disease. And I used machine learning, like advanced machine learning techniques, artificial intelligence techniques to predict Kashmir forest disease. And I worked on other projects in Kenya, like India, and yeah. So I work. So even though I'm in the US, so my research projects are even not even a single project is directly related to the problems in the US. So it's mostly collaborative, like world is becoming smaller and smaller. So the challenges that you face can be spread to from one location to another location easily. So we need to like collaborate and use our skills as one and to work on global challenges, and that's what I'm trying to do. So your skill sets are not limited to a geographical location anymore. So that's what I'm trying to say. And uh, and your learning is so your growth. You think that you are not going anywhere, but trust me, it's usually your success is not linear, right? Say if you put 1 hour of work, you don't get like one hour of benefit. Usually it's an exponential curve, so it gets easier and easier. So it might be difficult for you at the beginning, but as you go, it will get easier and easier. That's what my personal experience was, especially in when it comes to statistics and data analysis and all. I know that I never like our in our bachelor's, and our only experience in doing any kind of statistics is in our, I assume it's still in our animal genetics and breeding class, where we talk about chi-square test and t-tests and ANOVA and other tests. So I hated all those things. Even in my master's, I never liked it, but somehow I became interested, and now it's my full-time job, and I'm doing really well. I mean, at least I believe I'm doing really well. So keep your mind open to the possible opportunities. Sometimes life will surprise you, right? You might think that you don't like it, but sometimes life will just surprise you. So keep an open mind, and yeah, don't stop learning. Yeah. And yeah, and if you want to reach me, this is where you can reach. This is my LinkedIn QR. Just send me a email, like message on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to talk to you all. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you